October 14th, 2025, 3IATL-AS Return to the Shockwave, documentary for sleep. The date itself carries weight. October 14th, 2025. For it was on this day that the sky seemed to breathe differently. The night wrapped in whispers, as if the universe leaned closer and asked us to listen. Humanity had already become acquainted with 3IATL-AS. First glimpsed months before as it entered our solar system, catalogued as an interstellar comet, declared harmless by astronomers and treated with the cautious wonder we reserve for the rarest visitors. But on this October night, as it curved past its perihelion and re-emerged from the sun's glare, something changed. Telescopes trained on its coma reported fluctuations that defied expectations, not just subtle shifts in brightness, but rapid surges, as though the object exhaled with impossible force. Some described it as a shockwave of light, others as a pulse, a signal woven into the glow of sublimating ice, a release of energy that rippled outward across space and reached us not with destruction, but with disquiet. The word shockwave lingered in headlines. Though no physical wave had swept across Earth, no atmosphere rattled, no ocean surged. The shockwave was in meaning and implication, in the realization that Atlas was not leaving quietly, that perhaps its journey was not passive at all. To understand why this matters, one must return to the beginning. On July 1st, 2025, the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile recorded a faint dot, just one among thousands of nightly discoveries. Within days, orbital solutions confirmed it was hyperbolic, a visitor from beyond. Only the third ever confirmed after Oumuamua in 2017 and Borisov in 2019. Each of those predecessors had altered, used in subtle ways. Oumuamua, elongated and enigmatic, carried unexplained acceleration that forced us to imagine the possibility of alien engineering. Borisov soothed those anxieties with its natural cometary behavior, a familiar visitor dressed in interstellar origin. But Atlas arrived faster than both, 130 miles per second at perihelion, carrying a hyperbolic excess velocity of 61 kilometers per second, nearly double its predecessors. And more than that, its chemistry shocked us. On August 6th, the James Webb Space Telescope revealed a coma dominated by carbon dioxide in a ratio of 81:1 over water vapor. Unprecedented, a composition that forced even the most cautious scientists to admit that we did not fully understand what we were seeing. The explanations came formation in a CO-rich zone of its natal disk. Billions of years of cosmic ray processing, insulating dust mantles that hid water ice, but none satisfied. And then came October 14th, when its return to view after solar conjunction revealed not stability, but turbulence. Ground-based observatories recorded sudden outbursts, surges of light that faded quickly but left behind questions. Radio telescopes, tuned as part of ongoing SETI campaigns, detected nothing artificial, only silence, but the silence itself became suspect. What if the shockwave was not electromagnetic but conceptual? A marker, a gesture, a reminder that interstellar visitors are not accidents but perhaps instruments? Some scientists urged calm, reminding us that comets are volatile, unpredictable, prone to outbursts as ices shift and crack. Yet others whispered that the pattern seemed deliberate, the timing uncanny, the alignment with perihelion too coincidental. Could Atlas be more than comet? Could it be probe, messenger, artifact? If so, the shockwave it delivered was not of force but of perspective. The realization that the universe may speak in forms we mistake for noise. That intelligence might arrive disguised as debris. Its messages hidden in the very chemistry we measure. Did it alter Earth's orbit? No, not physically. At its closest approach, it remains 270 million kilometers away. Its gravitational influence negligible, less than the tides, less than the pull of distant Jupiter. Our planet continues its ellipse unchanged, the years steady, the seasons secure. But in another sense, yes, perhaps Atlas did alter Earth's orbit, not in mechanics, but in imagination. It bent the trajectory of our thought, perturbed the path of our certainty, shifted the orbit of our ideas about what it means to be visited. For orbits are not only celestial, they are also conceptual, and each visitor from the stars perturbs them. Oumuamua bent us toward speculation of technology. Borisov bent us back toward the comfort of the natural. And Atlas bends us again into uncertainty, ordinary yet extraordinary. Cometary yet anomalous, silent yet deafening. On this October night, the shockwave it sent was a ripple across our collective imagination, a reminder that the universe is alive with wanderers, some accidental, some ancient, some perhaps intentional. As you drift into rest, let the physics soothe you. Earth is safe, its orbit unchanged, its path steady. But let the speculation linger too. Perhaps the real shockwave was never physical at all. That the quiet realization that our certainty is fragile, our perspective malleable, our place in the cosmos more mysterious than we dare to believe. October 14th, 2025. Three-Eye Atlas. Returns with a shockwave. Documentary for sleep. The night of October 14th began with calm skies. A thin veil of autumn air cooling the observatories scattered across both hemispheres. And yet it would end with a ripple of unease that spread far beyond the walls of science. For on the state, the interstellar visitor known as 3ITLAS returned to view after passing its perihelion, re-emerging from the sun's glare with behavior that defied expectation. Astronomers had watched it for months, charting its speed 130 miles per second at its closest solar approach, measuring its composition through the James Webb Space Telescope, confirming its trajectory was hyperbolic, unbound, destined to pass through our system once before vanishing into interstellar space. The calculations were steady, the predictions precise. Earth was never in danger. The closest approach still 270 million kilometers away, nearly twice the Earth-Mars minimum distance, 50 times farther than the moon. Our planet's orbit was safe, unchanged. And yet what unfolded on this October night was enough to inspire the word that would dominate headlines: shockwave. Telescopes recorded sudden surges of brightness from a TLAS, sharp outbursts followed by rapid dimming, as though the comet exhaled violently in ways beyond the slow sublimation of ice. Some described it as a pulse, others as a flare. But the impression it left was of release, of energy, of something timed to coincide with its passage behind the sun. No blast reached Earth, no atmosphere rattled, no ocean stirred, yet the metaphor of a shockwave endured. For the tremor was felt not in geology but in psychology, not in orbit but in imagination. To understand why this mattered, we must recall what Atlas already represented. When it was first discovered on July 1st, 2025, by the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile, it was merely a faint dot among countless nightly detections. Only when its trajectory was calculated did its extraordinary nature reveal itself. Hyperbolic, unbound, a visitor from beyond. Only the third of its kind after Oumuamua in 2017 and Borisov in 2019. Oumuamua, enigmatic and acceleration-prone, had bent our minds toward speculation of alien probes. Borisov, conventional in its icy tail, had soothed with reassurance that interstellar objects could be natural. Atlas, however, has straddled the line. Its speed exceeds both predecessors. Its hyperbolic excess velocity of 61 kilometers per second, nearly twice that of Oumuamua, suggesting either violent ejection or deliberate acceleration. Its chemistry, stranger still, was revealed on August 6th by Webb, a coma dominated by carbon dioxide at a ratio of 81:1 over water vapor, unprecedented. a composition no comet has ever displayed. Explanations emerge: formation in a CO-rich zone of a protoplanetary disk, billions of years of cosmic ray alteration, dust mantles that seal water while freeing carbon dioxide, but none were satisfying. Thus, even before the October flare, Atlas carried mystery. And when it pulsed on the 14th, the unease deepened. Some saw coincidence, natural cometary outbursts caused by thermal stress and volatile ices suddenly venting. But others whispered that the timing was deliberate, that the shockwave was not chance but signal, that the universe had just tapped us on the shoulder. Could Atlas be more than comet, more than chance? Could it be probe, messenger, artifact? Could chemistry itself be code, light curves, communication, silence, a chosen language? The physics reminds us firmly that Earth's orbit is untouched. The ellipse endures, the sun's gravity holds us fast. Jupiter and the moon maintain their stabilizing roles, and no interstellar mountain of ice can undo billions of years of stability. But in another sense, perhaps Earth's orbit has been altered, not in space, but in thought. For orbits are not only celestial, they are conceptual, and each interstellar visitor perturbs them. Oumuamua bent us toward the possibility of design. Borisov bent us back toward the comfort of the natural. Atlas bends us again into uncertainty. Ordinary yet extraordinary, silent yet loud. On this October night, the shockwave it sent rippled across imagination, bending our mental orbit toward humility, reminding us that the universe is stranger than we dare admit. And as you drift toward rest, let the mathematics soothe you. Earth is safe, its path unchanged, its year assured. But let the speculation drift alongside. Perhaps the real shockwave was not light or force, but meaning. A reminder that while Earth's orbit endures, our certainty is always waiting to be moved. October 14th, 2025. 3. IATLAS returns with the Shockwave, Documentary 4. Sleep day began quietly, as most cosmic revelations do, with astronomers at their telescopes and data streams flowing steadily into observatories worldwide. Yet by the night's end, October 14th, 2025 would be remembered as the date when 3I Atlas, the third interstellar visitor ever confirmed, reminded us that the universe does not always follow the scripts we write for it. This was the comet scientists had already declared harmless, the one calculated to pass Earth no closer than 270 million kilometers, nearly twice the minimum Earth-Mars distance, 50 times farther than the moon. This was the body measured by the James Webb Space Telescope on August 6th. When its coma revealed carbon dioxide outshining water vapor by an impossible ratio of 81:1. This was the comet whose speed at perihelion reached 130 miles per second. Its hyperbolic excess velocity 61 kilometers per second, faster than anything of its kind recorded before. It was already a mystery, already an object of speculation, but on this October night, something occurred that deepened the enigma. As Atlas emerged from behind the sun, observatories recorded sudden spikes of brightness, surges of light unlike the steady glow of sublimating ices. These flares appeared and faded quickly, but they were sharp, pronounced, impossible to ignore. They were described as pulses, as if the comet exhaled with unnatural force, releasing bursts of energy at moments too precise to dismiss. Nothing struck Earth, no physical wave rolled across our atmosphere, yet the word shockwave found its way into headlines because the effect was not in physics but in meaning. It was a shockwave of implication, a ripple across the collective imagination, a reminder that interstellar visitors may not always be passive wanderers, but might instead be instruments of something greater. To some, the explanation was simple. Comets are volatile, their surfaces fractured and layered, prone to sudden outbursts as sunlight penetrates deeper, releasing gas and dust in violent jets. But others noticed the timing, the pattern, the coincidence of its flare with its reemergence. From the sun's glare, one wondered whether coincidence could be so precise. Was the flare natural, or was it signal? The thought alone was enough to bend the trajectory of our certainty. To understand why this moment struck so deeply, one must consider how rare such visitors are. Before Oumuamua in 2017, humanity had never observed an interstellar object within the solar system. That first visitor, elongated and tumbling, accelerated in ways not fully explained by natural outgassing. Avi Loeb and others speculated that it might be artificial, perhaps a fragment of alien technology, perhaps even a light sail. The debate raged, but no evidence was decisive. Then came Borisov in 2019, a comet that behaved predictably, its chemistry and activity resembling comets of our own system. It reassured us that interstellar objects could be ordinary, fragments of planetary formation cast adrift by the violence of gravity. But ATLAS, discovered July 1st, 2025, by the ATLAS Survey Telescope in Chile, defies both categories. It is cometary in appearance, its coma visible and active, but its speed and chemistry refuse comfort. It is both ordinary and extraordinary, both familiar and strange. And now, with its October flares, it unsettles us again. Did a TLS alter Earth's orbit? The answer, by the steady hand of physics, is no. Its distance is too great, its mass too small, its influence less than tides, less than the tug of distant Jupiter, less even than the pressure of sunlight. Earth's ellipse around the sun endures, steady as it has been for billions of years. But in another sense, perhaps yes, for Earth's orbit is not only a line in space, but a path of imagination. And on this night, ATLAS perturbed that path. It nudged us away from certainty, away from complacency, and bent us toward wonder. It reminded us that orbits are not only celestial but conceptual, that each interstellar visitor alters not our planet but our perspective. Oumuamua bent us toward speculation of the artificial. Borisov bent us back toward the comfort of the natural. ATLAS bends us again into uncertainty, cometary yet anomalous, silent yet loud. The shockwave was not in our atmosphere but in our minds, not in our oceans but in our ideas. As you drift into rest, let the mathematics comfort you. Earth is safe. The ellipse is steady, the year assured, the seasons will return. But let the speculation drift alongside. Perhaps the true shockwave of October 14th was not a flare of light, but a flare of meaning. Not an alteration of orbit, but an alteration of imagination. A reminder that the universe is alive with wanderers, each one carrying with it the potential to change us, not by force, but by revelation. October 14th, 25, 3IA TLAS returns with a shockwave, documentary for sleep. The night carried a weight that could not be measured in tides or temperatures, but in the way humanity collectively held its breath, for October 14th became the day when 3IA TLAs reminded us that the universe still knows how to surprise. This interstellar visitor had already been catalogued, already declared harmless, its trajectory known, and its closest approach calculated at 270 million kilometers, a distance that ensured no threat to Earth, 50 times farther than our moon. Yet when it emerged from behind the glare of the sun, its behavior betrayed the neat predictions of textbooks. Observatories reported outbursts, not slow sublimation of volatile ices, but sudden, pulsing flares, bursts of brightness that seemed too precise, too patterned, to dismiss as random. Nothing physical touched Earth, no winds, no tremors, no waves, but the impression of a shockwave spread all the same. The word entered headlines not because of destruction, but because of implication. The shock was intellectual, cultural, psychological, and it rolled outward faster than light, carried by human imagination. We had always known ATLAS was strange. From the moment of its discovery on July 1st, 2025, at the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile, it had distinguished itself. Its path was hyperbolic, proof of interstellar origin, placing it among the rarest category of visitors. Only two such objects had ever been confirmed: Oumuamua in 2017, Borisov in 2019. Each had altered us in its own way. Oumuamua, elongated and tumbling, accelerated in ways that defied explanation, provoking speculation that it was more than mere rock, that it might be technology. Borisov soothed those fears, behaving as a conventional comet, venting water and dust in predictable ways. But Atlas straddled both worlds. It looked cometary, its coma glowing, but its speed 130 miles per second at perihelion. 61 kilometers per second, even after accounting for solar pull, was far beyond its predecessors. Its chemistry, revealed by the James Webb Space Telescope on August 6th, was stranger still, a coma dominated by carbon dioxide in an 81-to-1 ratio over water vapor, a balance never seen before. Scientists offered explanations. Perhaps it formed in a carbon dioxide-rich zone of its natal protoplanetary disk. Perhaps cosmic rays over billions of years altered its composition, trapping water while freeing CO. Perhaps dust mantles created insulating shells that hid water ice. All were plausible, none were fully convincing. And so when Atlas flared on October 14th, the tension broke. Could these surges be coincidence? Could they be deliberate? Was the timing with its reemergence from behind the sun merely chance? Or was it a gesture, a signal, a wave across the cosmic gulf? Radio telescopes listened for artificial signals and heard only silence. But the silence itself became suspect, for what if silence was the message? The idea unsettled, not because it threatened Earth's safety, but because it challenged our certainty. Did a TLS alter Earth's orbit? Physics says no, firmly. Its distance was immense, its mass modest, its gravitational pull weaker than tides, weaker than Jupiter's subtle influence, weaker even than the sunlight pushing gently on Earth's atmosphere. Earth's ellipse endures, steady as it has for billions of years. But in another sense, perhaps yes, for Atlas perturbed the orbit of our thought. For orbits are not only celestial, they are conceptual, the paths our minds trace around mysteries larger than ourselves. Oumuamua bent us toward the artificial, Borisov bent us back toward the natural, Atlas bends us into uncertainty, ordinary yet extraordinary, cometary yet anomalous. On October 14th, it bent us again, sending a shockwave not through space, but through imagination, altering not the mechanics of Earth's path, but the trajectory of human thought. To understand why the shockwave resonated so deeply, one must consider humanity's long history with comets. For millennia, they were omens, feared and revered. In Babylon, they were catalogued as portents of conquest. In China, their appearances were tied to the fates of dynasties, and court astronomers sometimes concealed them for fear of imperial wrath. In medieval Europe, they were painted as swords of fire, warnings of famine and plague. Even in the modern age, Halley's Comet in 1910 sparked fear that its gases would poison Earth's air. Beneath the superstition lay truth, for comets have altered worlds. They scarred the moon, reshaped Mars, and 66 million years ago ended the age of dinosaurs, remaking Earth's climate and setting the stage for us. To see Atlas flare unnaturally, even harmlessly, is to feel the echo of that ancient memory. The awareness that wanderers from space can change everything. But what if this change is subtler? What if the true impact of Atlas is not gravitational but philosophical, not a blow to Earth but a blow to our certainty? Each interstellar visitor reminds us that the universe is filled with fragments from other suns, relics of other histories. Some may be natural, cast adrift by gravity, wandering aimlessly for billions of years. But what if some are not? What if some are instruments designed to travel, to observe, to signal? What if chemistry itself can be code, light curves can be language, silence can be communication? The idea unsettles because it forces us to imagine intelligence that does not announce itself in ways we expect, but hides in plain sight, wearing the mask of the ordinary. Perhaps Atlas is natural, and if so, it expands our understanding of planetary formation and cometary diversity. But perhaps it is not, and if so, it expands our understanding of intelligence, reminding us that the universe may already be speaking to us in languages we have not yet learned to read. Either way, Earth's orbit remains steady, but humanity's orbit shifts. The shockwave of October 14th rippled across the path of our certainty, bending it toward humility, reminding us that the cosmos is older, stranger, and perhaps more purposeful than we imagine. And so, as you settle into rest, let the numbers comfort you. Earth is safe, its ellipse unbroken, the seasons assured. But let the speculation linger too. Perhaps Atlas has already changed us. Not our planet, but our perspective. Not our orbit in space, but our orbit of imagination. And perhaps this is the true shockwave, not destruction, but revelation. Not threat, but awakening. A reminder that while Earth's path endures, our certainty is always waiting to be moved. October 14th, 2025, 3i Atlas. Returns with a Shockwave, documentary for sleep. The moment will be remembered as both ordinary and extraordinary. For nothing appeared to happen in the skies above us that night, and yet everything changed within the collective imagination of those who watched the stars. The interstellar visitor 3i Atlas had already been declared harmless, a frozen fragment crossing space at impossible speeds, destined to sweep by and vanish into the deep dark. Its closest approach to Earth still 270 million kilometers away, 50 times the distance of our moon, with no physical chance of impact. Yet on October 14th, as it emerged from the glare of the sun, its behavior betrayed the predictions of careful mathematics. Telescopes recorded sudden spikes of brightness, sharp pulses that flared and dimmed in rapid succession, as though the comet had inhaled the heat of its perihelion and exhaled with shocking force. Some called it an outburst, others a flare, but in headlines and whispers alike, the word shockwave took hold. Not because anything struck Earth, but because the implication rippled through us. Perhaps Atlas was not merely a wanderer. Perhaps its silence and strangeness concealed a purpose. The science remains unshaken. Earth's orbit was not altered. Its ellipse around the sun remained steady, its path held firm by the immense gravity of our star, stabilized further by Jupiter, Saturn, and our own moon. The tide of Atlas is weaker than the tides, weaker than the faint pressure of sunlight, negligible against the balances that have endured for billions of years. And yet, in another sense, perhaps Earth's orbit was changed not in stone or sea, but in thought. Not in mechanics, but in imagination. For orbits are not only celestial, they are also conceptual. The paths our minds trace around mysteries, and Atlas has perturbed them. Consider its nature. Discovered on July 1st, 2025, by the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile, it was only a faint dot at first. But within days, its trajectory revealed itself as hyperbolic, proof of interstellar origin. Only the third such object after Oumuamua in 2017 and Borisov in 2019. Oumuamua unsettled us with unexplained acceleration, leading some to suggest it might be artificial. Perhaps a light sail, perhaps a fragment of alien craft. Borisov soothed us by behaving predictably, venting water vapor and dust like a conventional comet, reassuring us that most interstellar objects might be familiar. But Atlas straddled both realms. It looked cometary, its coma glowing, yet its speed exceeded its predecessors. 130 miles per second at perihelion, 61 kilometers per second even after accounting for solar pull. Stranger still was its chemistry. On August 6th, the James Webb Space Telescope revealed a coma dominated not by water, but by carbon dioxide at an unprecedented ratio of 81-1. Unlike any comet in our solar system, explanations emerge formation in a CO-rich zone of a natal disk, cosmic ray alteration over billions of years, dust mantles hiding water, but none fully satisfied. And then in October, the flares. Could they have been coincidence? Natural comets do outburst. But the timing, the suddenness, the alignment with its solar reemergence unsettled many. Some wondered if chemistry itself could be code, if light curves could be communication, if silence could be a deliberate choice. Radio telescopes listened and heard nothing, but what if silence is the message? What if the shockwave is not a physical pulse, but a conceptual one, a nudge to remind us we are not alone? Across history, comets have carried weight beyond science. In Babylon, they were omens of conquest. In China, their appearances were tied to the fates of emperors. In Europe, they were painted as fiery swords warning of famine and plague. Even Halley's Comet in 1910 inspired fear that its tail would poison the air. Beneath superstition lies truth, for wanderers have altered worlds before, striking planets, scarring moons, and 66 million years ago ending the age of dinosaurs. To see Atlas flare is to feel the echo of that memory, to remember that space has teeth. But the shockwave of 2025 is subtler. It is not in craters but in consciousness, not in seas but in certainty. Perhaps Atlas is only a comet, and if so, it teaches us about planetary formation, about the diversity of chemistry in the galaxy. Perhaps it is not, and if so, it teaches us about intelligence, about subtlety, about how messages might arrive disguised as debris. Either way, Earth's orbit is steady, but humanity's orbit shifts, bent away from certainty, curved toward humility, nudged into wonder. And so, as you drift toward rest, let the numbers comfort you. Earth is safe, its ellipse unbroken, its path unchanged. But let imagination drift with you. Perhaps the true shockwave was not light or gas, but meaning. A reminder that while the planet's orbit endures, our certainty is always waiting to be moved. October 14th, 2025, 3I-ETLAS returns. With a shockwave documentary for sleep, the hours of October 14th unfolded like any other. The skies unremarkable to the naked eye, the stars indifferent in their positions, the moon tracing its familiar path. Yet hidden in ordinary frame was an extraordinary revelation. For 3IA-TLAS, the third interstellar visitor ever recorded by humanity, emerged once more into our view, and with it came a tremor that could not be measured in tides, or tremors, but only in the shifts of human thought. This was the comet already declared harmless, its trajectory mapped with confidence. Its closest approach a comfortable 270 million kilometers, more than 50 times farther than the moon. Its gravitational tug upon Earth so faint that even the rise and fall of daily tides outweigh it. Yet when Atlas slipped out from behind the glare of the sun on that October night, it refused to remain silent. Observatories recorded bursts of brightness, rapid flares that rose and fell with uncanny precision, moments that did not resemble the slow sublimation of ices, but instead something abrupt, something patterned, something unsettling. Headlines and scientists alike reached for the word shockwave, not because any physical wave rattled the earth, but because of the realization that this visitor was behaving in ways that bent the edges of explanation. Shockwaves can be psychological, cultural, conceptual, and in this case, the pulse of Atlas sent a ripple through imagination rather than atmosphere. Science remained steady in its reassurance. Earth's orbit was never altered, never nudged. never bent from its ellipse around the sun. The laws of celestial mechanics hold us firmly as they have for billions of years. The sun's gravity binding our planet with overwhelming strength, Jupiter lending stability with its vast mass, our moon guiding the tides and balancing Earth's spin. Compared to these forces, ATLAS is a feather adrift, its influence negligible, its presence too distant to matter physically. And yet imagination knows no such limits, for while the planet's path remains unchanged, humanity's certainty shifted, bent by the flares of an interstellar wanderer that seemed to call out from the dark. This is not the first time we have been shaken by such a visitor. Oumuamua in 2017, elongated and tumbling, accelerated mysteriously and sparked debate about alien sails and probes. Borisov in 2019 soothed our nerves with its familiar cometary behavior, venting water and dust in ways we understood. But Atlas, discovered July 1st, 2025, at the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile, exists in a liminal space between them, cometary in appearance, yet anomalous in speed and chemistry. At perihelion, it raced at 130 miles per second, carrying a hyperbolic excess velocity of 61 kilometers per second. Faster than any interstellar object before, velocity that suggests either violent ejection from its home or deliberate design. And then there was its chemistry, revealed by the James Webb Space Telescope on August 6th, a coma dominated by carbon dioxide in a ratio of 81:1 over water vapor, a balance never seen in comets of our system. Scientists propose possibilities: formation in a carbon dioxide-rich region of its natal disk, cosmic ray alteration across billions of years, dust mantles sealing water while freeing carbon dioxide, but none fully satisfied. And then came the October flares. Could they be random? Comets do outbursts, jets do flare, sunlight does fracture volatile ice. But the timing, the sharpness, the repetition suggested something more deliberate. Could it be signal, gesture, even code? Radio telescopes listening for transmissions found only silence, but perhaps silence itself is the message, a reminder that the universe may speak in languages we have not yet learned to read. For history teaches us that comets are never just objects. In Babylon, they were catalogued as omens of conquest. In China, their tails were tied to the fortunes of emperors. In medieval Europe, they were painted as flaming swords across illuminated manuscripts, portents of famine and plague. Even Halley's Comet in 1910 inspired fear that its gases would poison Earth's air. And beneath these myths lies memory. For wanderers from space have altered worlds before, scarred planets, carved craters. And 66 million years ago ended the reign of dinosaurs, reshaping climate and evolution. To witness Atlas flaring unnaturally is to feel that memory awaken, to recognize again that the cosmos is not passive, that it can touch us in ways we are not prepared for. And yet perhaps the true shockwave is subtler, not in destruction but in revelation, not in impact but in implication. Perhaps Atlas is natural, and if so, it expands our understanding of planetary formation, teaching us that the galaxy produces diversity beyond our expectations. Or perhaps it is not, and if so, it forces us to imagine intelligence that disguises itself as ordinary debris. Technology hidden in cometary form, messages encoded in chemistry and light. Either way, the orbit of Earth is steady, but the orbit of human thought has shifted. On October 14th, we were reminded that orbits are not only celestial, they are also conceptual, paths our minds trace around mysteries, and Atlas has perturbed them. Oumuamua bent us toward the artificial, Borisov bent us back toward the natural. Atlas bends us again toward uncertainty, cometary yet strange, silent yet loud. The shockwave of 2025 was not in our seas, but in our certainty. Not in our orbit, but in our imagination, and its ripples will continue long after Atlas vanishes back into the dark. And as you drift into rest, let the firm voice of physics comfort you. Earth is safe, its ellipse unbroken, its path unchanged. But let imagination travel further. Perhaps the true alteration is not celestial mechanics, but perspective. Not the orbit of our planet, but the orbit of our certainty. Always waiting to be moved by wanderers from the stars. October 14th, 2025. Three-Eye Atlas. Returns with a Shockwave documentary for sleep. The day that began in silence ended in speculation. And October 14th will be remembered not for any tremor in the earth or upheaval in the seas, but for a subtle shiver across the human imagination. For on this night, the interstellar traveler Three-Eye Atlas once again revealed that the universe is far less predictable than our calculations would prefer. We had already declared it safe, a harmless wanderer from another star, a body destined to cross our skies and retreat forever into the dark. Never threatening impact, never drawing closer than 270 million kilometers, 50 times farther than our moon. Its gravitational tug on Earth was negligible. Less than the daily tides, less than the faint pressure of sunlight. Dwarfed entirely by the sun, by Jupiter, by the moon's steady hand. Earth's orbit endured, unbent, its ellipse steady, its year unbroken. And yet, as ATLAs re-emerged from the glare of the sun that night, it behaved as though it wished to remind us that even harmless visitors can leave deep impressions. Telescopes reported flares, abrupt surges of brightness, sharp pulses that rose and faded like heartbeats, sudden and too precise to ignore. Scientists spoke cautiously of cometary outbursts, of volatile ices releasing gas and jets, of fractured crust exhaling with force. Yet for many observers, the word shockwave came naturally, not because the earth shook, but because human certainty did. The flares carried the suggestion of pattern, the whisper of intent, the impression of signal. If Oumuamua in 2017 had unsettled us with unexplained acceleration, and Borisov in 2019 had soothed us with its predictable cometary behavior, then Atlas, discovered July 1st, 2025, at the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile, occupied the uneasy middle ground between the two, cometary yet anomalous, familiar yet strange. At perihelion, it raced at 130 miles per second, faster than either predecessor, with a hyperbolic excess velocity of 61 kilometers per second, a speed that seemed to carry with it more than accident, more than chance. And its chemistry, measured by the James Webb Space Telescope on August 6th, remained the greatest puzzle. A coma dominated by carbon dioxide in a ratio of 81:1 over water vapor. Unprecedented, unseen in any other comet. Theories filled journals and conferences. Perhaps Atlas formed in a carbon dioxide-rich region of a protoplanetary disk. Perhaps cosmic rays across billions of years altered its chemistry. Perhaps insulating dust mantles sealed away water. Plausible, yes, but insufficient, for the anomaly remained. And so when it flared on October 14th, speculation deepened. Could chemistry itself be code? Could light curves be language? Could silence itself be the message? Radio telescopes scanned and heard nothing, but what if nothing was the point? What if Atlas carried with it not destruction, but revelation? Not a blow to our orbit, but a blow to our certainty. For history tells us that comets have never been only comets. In Babylon, they were catalogued as omens of conquest. In China, they were tied to the fates of emperors. In Europe, they were painted as fiery swords in manuscripts, warnings of famine and plague. Even Halley's Comet in 1910 stirred panic that its tail would poison Earth. Beneath superstition lies memory, the recognition that objects from the void have indeed reshaped worlds. 66 million years ago, a fragment ended the reign of dinosaurs, transforming Earth's climate and opening the path for us. To see Atlas flare unnaturally is to feel that memory awaken, to recognize that space still carries possibilities we're not ready for. Yet perhaps the true shockwave of October 14th was subtler than any crater or cataclysm. It was not a disruption of Earth's path, but of our intellectual orbit, a reminder that the cosmos is filled with wanderers whose origins and purposes we may never fully understand. Perhaps Atlas is entirely natural, a comet that teaches us of planetary formation in environments unlike our own, proof of the galaxy's diversity. Or perhaps it is not, and if so, it forces us to reimagine intelligence itself, not as beings who announce themselves with signals and ships, but as entities who disguise, who observe, who communicate in subtler ways. Either way, Earth remains unchanged, but humanity does not. Our orbit of thought has shifted. Oumuamua bent us toward the artificial, Borisov bent us back toward the natural, Atlas bends us again into uncertainty, and with its October flares, it bent us toward humility, toward wonder, toward unease. The shockwave was not physical but conceptual, not a jolt to oceans, but a jolt to certainty, and its ripples may last long after Atlas has vanished back into interstellar space. As you drift into sleep, let the mathematics comfort you. Earth is safe, the ellipse steady, the seasons assured. But let imagination accompany you. Perhaps the real orbit altered on October 14th was not. Earth's around the sun, but ours around the unknown. Bent once more into new paths by the silent pulse of a visitor from the stars. October 14th, 2025. 3. Ia returns with a shockwave. Documentary for sleep. The night itself was still. The air calm, the stars familiar, yet behind that quiet surface something subtle unfolded. For on October 14th, the interstellar traveler known as 3 re-entered our view after passing behind the sun. And in doing so, it carried with it a riddle that rippled through every layer of human imagination. This was not our first encounter with Atlas. We had already charted its hyperbolic path, its trajectory ensuring no collision, its closest approach set at 270 million kilometers. Twice the minimum Earth-Mars distance, 50 times farther than our moon. Physics promised safety. Earth's orbit remained stable, the ellipse unbroken, the seasons assured. Yet Atlas was never only about safety, it was about strangeness. From its discovery on July 1st, 2025, by the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile, it announced itself as extraordinary, only the third interstellar visitor ever seen after Oumuamua in 2017 and Borisov in 2019. Faster than both, with a perihelion speed of 130 miles per second and a hyperbolic excess velocity of 61 kilometers per second. And stranger still, its chemistry. On August 6th, the James Webb Space Telescope revealed a coma dominated by carbon dioxide in an 81-to-1 ratio over water vapor, a balance never before recorded in any comet. These oddities could have remained curiosities, subjects of debate at conferences and within journals, but what happened on October 14th made them harder to ignore. As Atlas emerged from behind the sun, telescopes detected abrupt flares of brightness, sharp pulses rising and falling too quickly to resemble the slow venting of ordinary cometary ices. They came in sequence, one after another, fading and then returning like the breath of something alive. Scientists cautious described them as outbursts, natural but unpredictable, volatile gases suddenly venting as sunlight reached deeper fractures. Yet for many, the word shockwave seemed unavoidable. For even though nothing struck Earth, no physical wave rattled our skies, the flares felt like pulses of meaning, timed, deliberate, unsettling. Headlines carried the word, not for destruction, but for implication. Could these outbursts be coincidence, or could they be communication? History reminds us that comets have always been more than objects. In Babylon, they were portents of conquest. In China, they foretold the rise and fall of dynasties. In Europe, they were painted as swords of flame, harbingers of famine and plague. Even Halley's Comet in 1910 stirred panic that its tail would poison Earth. Beneath superstition lies truth. For comets and asteroids have indeed altered worlds. They have scarred the moon, reshaped Mars, and 66 million years ago ended the reign of dinosaurs, rewriting the course of evolution. To see Atlas flare unnaturally is to feel that memory return, to sense again that wanderers can change everything. But what if the change here is subtler? What if Atlas does not strike planets, but strikes perspectives, not altering orbits of stone, but orbits of thought? Perhaps the shockwave was never physical, but conceptual, never a jolt to Earth, but a jolt to certainty. Oumuamua bent us toward speculation of alien sails. Borisov bent us back toward the reassurance of natural comets. Atlas bends us again toward uncertainty, cometary yet anomalous, natural yet strange. At perihelion, it whispered speed. At Webb's gaze, it whispered chemistry. And on October 14th, it whispered pattern. Could chemistry itself be code? Could flares of light be signals? Could silence itself be the message? Radio telescopes strained and heard nothing, yet silence itself may speak volumes, reminding us that intelligence may not appear in forms we expect, that communication may not arrive in words or waves, but in anomalies, in timing, in subtlety. And if Atlas is natural, then it expands our knowledge, teaching us that planetary formation across the galaxy produces diversity we had not imagined, that interstellar space carries with it records of ancient stellar environments. And if Atlas is not natural, then it forces us to face the possibility that intelligence travels not with obvious ships, but with disguised fragments, messengers masked as comets, carrying information we have not yet learned to read. Either way, Earth's orbit endures, steady as ever, yet humanity's orbit bends, perturbed by the flares of an interstellar visitor. The shockwave of October 14th rolled not through oceans, but through imaginations, not through geology, but through philosophy. A reminder that while celestial mechanics keeps us safe, meaning itself can alter us profoundly. And so, as you drift into sleep, let the voice of physics calm you. Earth is safe, its path steady, the ellipse unbroken. But let speculation stay beside you. Perhaps the true orbit altered on this night was not Earth's around the sun, but ours around certainty. Bent once more into new curves by the silent pulse of a stranger from the stars. October 14th, 2025. 3i Atlas. Returns with a Shockwave documentary for sleep. The night of October 14th will be remembered not because the earth shook, not because the oceans rose, but because a ripple of meaning swept through the collective mind of humanity when 3i Atlas, the third interstellar visitor ever observed, stepped once again into view. Astronomers had assured us of its harmlessness. Its trajectory had been calculated with precision, a hyperbolic orbit that would never intersect with Earth. Its closest approach still 270 million kilometers away, nearly twice the closest distance between Earth and its gravitational pull on Earth was so minuscule that even the steady tug of tides, the push of sunlight on our upper atmosphere outweighs it. In physics, Earth's orbit remained untouched, the ellipse steady, the seasons assured. And yet, when Atlas reappeared from the glare of the sun on that October night, it defied the comfort of predictions.
4, 3,
Telescopes caught
2,
abrupt pulses,
1.
sharp surges of brightness rising
Ignition
and
and
fading.
liftoff of Ares 1X.
These were not
Testing
the gradual
concepts for the
exhibitions
future of new rocket design.
They were sudden, patterned, unsettling. Scientists spoke carefully, describing volatile ices venting in unpredictable bursts, natural but dramatic. Yet for many, the word that spread was shockwave. not in the literal sense of a wave striking Earth, but as a shock to certainty, a wave of implication. Could these flares be random? Or could they be signal? To understand why the thought took root, one must recall the history of these rare interstellar visitors. Oumuamua, discovered in 2017, was the first, a slender fragment that accelerated mysteriously as though pushed by unseen hands. Some, like Avi Loeb, speculated it might be artificial, a sail or probe from another intelligence. Borisov followed in 2019, behaving like a conventional comet, venting dust and gas predictably, reassuring us that many such objects may be natural. But Atlas, discovered on July 1st, 2025, by the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile, exists between these extremes. It has the glowing coma of a comet, but its speed exceeds both predecessors, 130 miles per second at perihelion, 61 kilometers per second beyond solar influence. Nearly double Oumuamua's, its chemistry deepens the mystery. When the James Webb Space Telescope examined it on August 6th, it revealed a coma dominated by carbon dioxide in an 81-to-1 ratio over water vapor, an imbalance unprecedented in cometary science. Scientists offered hypothesis formation in a carbon dioxide-rich region of its natal disk, cosmic ray processing over billions of years, dust mantles sealing water ice, but none fully satisfied. And so, when its October flares arrived, speculation bloomed. Could chemistry itself be code? Could pulses of brightness be communication? Could silence itself, recorded by radio telescopes scanning for transmissions, be intentional? What if Atlas is more than comet? What if it is probe, artifact, messenger, technology disguised in ice and dust, traveling the galaxy in forms indistinguishable from debris? The idea unsettles, for it challenges our assumptions not about orbits, but about intelligence itself. Yet, even if Atlas is entirely natural, it still delivers shockwaves of revelation. For it teaches us that planetary formation across the galaxy is more diverse than our models assumed. That interstellar objects carry within them records of other stellar neighborhoods, other chemical histories, other times. It reminds us that the galaxy is alive with wanderers, fragments cast adrift by gravitational violence, each one a messenger of sorts, bearing the story of its origins. And if it is not natural, if its flares were deliberate, then it teaches us something deeper still, that the universe may be populated by intelligence that does not speak as we expect, that does not announce itself in signals and chips, but whispers through anomalies, through chemistry, through silence. History reminds us that comets have always carried weight beyond science. In Babylon, they were recorded as omens of conquest. In China, they were tied to the fortunes of dynasties. In Europe, they were painted into illuminated manuscripts as fiery swords, warnings of famine and plague. Even Halley's Comet in 1910, in the age of telescopes, stirred panic that its gases would poison Earth. Beneath superstition lies memory, for comets and asteroids have indeed altered worlds. 66 million years ago, a fragment ended the age of dinosaurs, reshaping climate, opening the path to mammals and to us. To watch Atlas flare unnaturally is to feel that ancient awareness stir, that recognition that wanderers can change everything. But the shockwave of October 14th is subtler. It does not strike Earth, but thought. It alters not our orbit in space, but our orbit in certainty. Oumuamua bent us toward speculation of the artificial. Borisov bent us back toward the reassurance of the natural. Atlas bends us again into the uneasy middle, cometary yet anomalous, familiar yet alien. On October 14th, it bent us further still, toward humility, toward wonder, toward unease. And so, as you settle into rest, let the firm voice of physics soothe you. Earth is safe, its orbit steady, the ellipse unbroken, the year assured. But let the flares of imagination linger too. For perhaps the true orbit altered on that night was not Earth's around the sun, but humanity's around the unknown, perturbed by the silent pulse of a traveler from the stars. A shockwave not of destruction, but of meaning, not of impact, but of revelation, reminding us that while planets remain steady, our certainty is always waiting to be moved. October 14th, 2025. 3i Atlas. Returns with a Shockwave documentary for sleep. The night of October 14th has already entered the quiet annals of human history, not as a catastrophe or calamity, not as a disaster written in fire across the skies, but as something subtler and stranger, as a night when the ordinary stars bore witness to the extraordinary return of a visitor from the deep beyond, a frozen wanderer. Named 3IATLAs, to the eye it was only a dot, a speck of light emerging from the glare of the sun, faint and delicate, but to the instruments that tracked it and the imaginations that pondered it, Atlas was an event, a presence, and for some, a shockwave that rattled not the crust of the earth, but the walls of certainty itself. Astronomers had reassured us for months this comet was harmless. Its path was hyperbolic, open-ended, proof it was unbound to our sun, destined to pass through once and vanish back into the void. Its closest approach would remain 270 million kilometers, nearly twice the Earth-Mars minimum distance, 50 times farther than the moon. Its mass was modest, its tug upon Earth negligible, far weaker than the pull of tides or the faint push of sunlight against our upper atmosphere. Physics declared firmly, Earth's orbit was untouched, unchanged, secure. And yet, the very question, did a TLAS alter Earth's orbit, refused to vanish, for what unfolded that night defied our comfort. As a TLAS reappeared from behind the sun, telescopes worldwide recorded flares, sudden surges of brightness that rose and faded like pulses, too sharp, too patterned, to resemble the slow, random outbursts of comets venting gas. Some called them outbursts, others called them signals, but across headlines and conversations, one word carried: shockwave. Nothing struck Earth, no tremors stirred the ground, no waves lashed the coasts. The shockwave was not of air or sea, but of meaning, of implication, of the unsettling recognition that this interstellar traveler might not be entirely passive, might not be entirely natural. To understand why the shock rippled so widely, one must trace the story of these rare interstellar visitors. Oumuamua was the first discovered in 2017, a strange elongated shard that tumbled end over end, its acceleration unexplained by visible outgassing, leading some to imagine alien sails and probes. Borisov came in 2019, a comet that behaved predictably, its water vapor and dust tails soothing fears and reminding us that most such visitors may indeed be natural fragments. But Atlas, discovered July 1st, 2025, at the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile, stood between them, both familiar and alien, cometary yet anomalous. Its speed surpassed both predecessors, 130 miles per second at perihelion, 61 kilometers per second even beyond the sun's reach. Nearly double Oumuamwa's, its chemistry was stranger still. On August 6th, the James Webb Space Telescope revealed its coma was dominated not by water vapor but by carbon dioxide in an astonishing ratio of 81:1, a chemical signature unlike any comet in our solar system. Explanations filled journals and conferences. Perhaps it formed in a CO-rich region of its natal disk. Perhaps cosmic rays altered it across billions of years, sealing away water while freeing carbon dioxide. Perhaps insulating dust mantles created strange venting patterns. All plausible, none conclusive. And then came October 14th, when its sudden flares gave new weight to speculation. Could chemistry itself be code? Could pulses of brightness be communication? Could silence, recorded faithfully by radio telescopes that found no transmissions, be the message? What if Atlas was not only comet but craft, not only wanderer but watcher? Technology disguised as debris, its trajectory calculated to mimic natural mechanics, its presence timed for now. The thought unsettled not because it threatened destruction, but because it threatened certainty. For history has always taught us that comets are never only comets. In Babylon, they were omens of conquest, catalogued meticulously. In China, they foretold the fates of dynasties, their appearances tied to emperors. In Europe, they were painted into manuscripts as fiery swords across the heavens, warnings of famine, plague, and war. Even in 1910, when Halley's Comet returned, modern newspapers fanned fear that its tail's gases might poison Earth. Beneath superstition lies memory, for comets and asteroids have indeed altered worlds. They have scarred the moon, reshaped Mars, and 66 million years ago, a fragment ended the age of dinosaurs, changing climate, resetting evolution, opening the path to us. To see Atlas flare in October is to feel that memory awaken, to sense again that wanderers can change everything. And yet the shockwave of Atlas was subtler. It did not shake the earth, but the human mind. It did not alter the orbit of a planet, but the orbit of thought. Oumuamua bent us toward speculation of alien technology. Borisov bent us back toward natural reassurance. Atlas bends us again into uncertainty, cometary yet anomalous, familiar yet strange, silent yet loud. On October 14th, it bent us further still, sending a shockwave through philosophy, reminding us that the universe is alive with wanderers, each carrying stories we are only beginning to hear. Perhaps Atlas is natural, and if so, it teaches us that the diversity of planetary formation is far wider than we imagined, that the galaxy is filled with strange chemistries and unfamiliar histories. Or perhaps it is not natural, and if so, it teaches us that intelligence may already be passing through our skies. Not in ships that announce themselves, but in subtle forms disguised as comets. Their messages hidden in chemistry, in light, in silence. Either way, Earth remains safe, its orbit steady, but humanity has been perturbed. For orbits are not only celestial, they are conceptual, the loops of thought we trace around mystery, and Atlas has nudged them. The true shockwave is not in mechanics, but in meaning, not in force, but in perspective. And so, as you settle into rest, let the voice of physics comfort you. Earth is steady. The ellipse endures, the year continues, the seasons return. But let the whisper of imagination linger too. Perhaps the real orbit altered on that night was not Earth's around the sun, but ours around certainty. Then once more by the silent flare of a traveler from the stars. A messenger that comes not with impact, but with revelation, reminding us that while planets remain steady, our certainty is always waiting to be moved. October 14th, 2025, 3I AT LAS returns. With a shockwave, documentary for sleep, the night itself seemed deceptively ordinary. Yet in the stillness of October 14th, something profound unfolded that would leave astronomers, philosophers, and dreamers alike with questions that linger far beyond the reach of physics. The interstellar traveler 3I Atlas had already been studied, charted, and declared harmless, its hyperbolic trajectory ensuring no collision with Earth. Its closest pass locked at a safe 270 million kilometers, 50 times farther than the moon. The laws of celestial mechanics guaranteed stability. Earth's orbit was untouched, its ellipse steady, its seasons assured. Yet when Atlas reappeared from the glare of the sun, it refused to pass quietly. Telescopes recorded flares of brightness, abrupt pulses that rose and faded with a rhythm too sharp, too deliberate to be ignored. To the cautious scientists, they were outbursts, natural venting of volatile gases, unpredictable but not unprecedented. To others, they were something more, a pulse, a signal, a shockwave that rippled not through the earth, but through the fragile orbit of human certainty. The word shockwave spread quickly, not because seas surged or skies burned, but because the implications unsettled the mind. How could this body, smaller than a mountain and unimaginably far, strike us without striking us? How could it perturb not planets, but thoughts? To answer, we must place Atlas in the lineage of interstellar visitors. Oumuamua was first in 2017, an elongated shard tumbling across the stars, its unexplained acceleration sparking debate about light sails and probes. Borisov followed in 2019, a comet behaving predictably, venting water vapor and dust in ways that reassured us. And then came a TLAS, discovered on July 1st, 2025, by the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile, a body that carried the strangeness of both, cometary in appearance yet anomalous in speed and chemistry. At perihelion, it raced at 130 miles per second, carrying a hyperbolic excess velocity of 61 kilometers per second, far faster than its predecessors. On August 6th, the James Webb Space Telescope revealed its coma was dominated not by water but by carbon dioxide, in a staggering 81:1 ratio, a chemical fingerprint never before seen. Explanations abounded: formation in a CO-rich region, billions of years of cosmic ray processing insulating dust mantles. Plausible but unsatisfying. And then came the flares, timed as though the universe itself wished to unsettle us. Were they random, or were they deliberate? Could chemistry itself be code, brightness a form of language, silence a chosen message? Radio telescopes strained for transmissions and found only nothingness. But silence itself may be the most eloquent form of communication. Perhaps Atlas is natural, and if so, it widens our understanding of planetary formation, revealing chemistries far stranger than we imagined. Or perhaps it is not, and if so, it forces us to reimagine intelligence, not as beings who broadcast their presence loudly, but as entities who drift quietly, disguised as ordinary comets, whispering in forms too subtle for us to decode. Throughout history, comets have carried meaning beyond science. In Babylon, they were signs of conquest. In China, they foretold the fates of emperors. In Europe, they were drawn as swords of fire in illuminated manuscripts, warnings of famine and plague. Even in 1910, Halley's Comet stirred panic that its gases might poison Earth. And beneath these myths lies truth, for comets and asteroids have indeed shaped worlds. 66 million years ago, one ended the reign of the dinosaurs, resetting evolution and paving the way for us. To watch Atlas flare unnaturally is to feel that memory awaken, to recognize again that wanderers from space can change everything, if not in stone, then in thought. The shockwave of Atlas was not a blow to Earth's orbit, but a perturbation of humanity's orbit of certainty. Oumuamua bent us toward speculation of the artificial. Borisov bent us back toward the comfort of the natural. Atlas bends us again into unease. Straddling both realms, cometary yet anomalous, silent yet deafening. Earth remains steady, but imagination does not. The true shockwave rolled across philosophy, across culture, across the fragile balance of what we believe about our place in the cosmos. For orbits are not only celestial, they are conceptual, and each interstellar visitor perturbs them. And so, as you drift into rest, let physics reassure you. Earth is safe, its path secure, the ellipse unbroken, the season sure. But let imagination accompany you too. Perhaps the real orbit altered on. October 14th was not Earth's around the sun, but ours around the unknown. Bent once again by a visitor from the stars. A shockwave of meaning rather than matter. A revelation that while planets endure, our certainty is always waiting to be moved. October 14th, 2025, 3i Atlas. returns with a Shockwave documentary for sleep. The hours of October 14th passed as if they belonged to any other autumn day. Yet hidden within them was a moment that stretched the boundaries of human imagination. For on this night, the interstellar visitor known as 3-Eye Atlas, already charted, studied, and declared harmless, re-emerged from the glare of the sun and left behind not craters or collisions, but a tremor and certainty itself. Astronomers had spoken with confidence. Atlas posed no danger. Its hyperbolic trajectory guaranteed that it would not be captured by the sun, nor strike Earth, nor alter the delicate balance of our planet's orbit. Its closest approach was still a vast 270 million kilometers, 50 times farther than the moon, nearly twice the minimum distance between Earth and Mars. Its mass, modest on a cosmic scale, exerted no gravitational pull worth noting, less than the tides, less than the subtle pressure of sunlight against the atmosphere. The ellipse of Earth around the sun remained steady, unbroken, untouched. And yet, when Atlas returned to our sight on October 14th, it behaved in ways that unsettled even the most cautious minds. Telescopes caught abrupt flares of light, sudden pulses that rose and faded too quickly to resemble the slow sublimation of ice, too sharp to be ignored. Some described them as outbursts, natural vents of volatile gas. Others whispered they looked like signals, timed and deliberate. Headlines and conversations alike seized on a word that resonated more deeply than data: shockwave. The shockwave was not physical, for Earth did not tremble, the oceans did not surge, the atmosphere did not stir. The shockwave was conceptual, an impact upon thought rather than stone, a ripple across the fragile orbit of human certainty. For Atlas was never only about safety. It was about strangeness. From the moment of its discovery on July 1st, 2025, by the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile, it had set itself apart. Only 2 other interstellar visitors had ever been confirmed: Oumuamua in 2017 and Borisov in 2019. Oumuamua, elongated and tumbling, accelerated mysteriously, provoking speculation of alien sails and probes. Borisov soothed us by behaving as a conventional comet, venting water vapor and dust predictably. But Atlas straddled the divide. At perihelion, it raced faster than both, 130 miles per second. Its hyperbolic excess velocity 61 kilometers per second, nearly double Oumuamua's. Its chemistry deepened the anomaly. On August 6th, the James Webb Space Telescope revealed its coma was dominated by carbon dioxide in an 81-to-1 ratio over water vapor, an imbalance unprecedented. Scientists offered theories formation in a CO-rich region of its natal disk, cosmic ray alteration over billions of years, insulating dust mantles that sealed away water. Plausible but unsatisfying. And then came the October flares, as if time to demand attention. Could chemistry itself be a code? Could light curves be language? Could silence, faithfully recorded by radio telescopes that heard nothing artificial, be the chosen form of message? Perhaps Atlas is natural, and if so, it expands our knowledge of planetary formation, revealing chemistries beyond what we imagined. Or perhaps it is not, and if so, it forces us to confront the possibility that intelligence may move silently through our skies, disguised as debris, whispering through anomalies, teaching us that the universe speaks in ways we have not yet learned to understand. History has always lent weight to comets beyond their physical presence. In Babylon, they were recorded as signs of conquest. In China, their appearances were tied to emperors. In Europe, they were painted into manuscripts as swords of flame, warnings of famine and plague. Even in 1910, Halley's Comet stirred panic that its tail would poison the Earth. Beneath the myths lies memory, for wanderers have indeed reshaped worlds. 66 million years ago, one ended the reign of dinosaurs, changing climate and rewriting the story of life. To witness Atlas flare on October 14th was to feel that awareness return, to recognize again that space is not empty, that it still carries messages, still carries shocks. The true shockwave of Atlas did not ripple through oceans, but through imagination. It perturbed not the orbit of Earth, but the orbit of thought. Oumuamua bent us toward speculation of the artificial. Borisov bent us back toward the comfort of the natural. Atlas bends us once again into the uneasy middle, cometary yet anomalous, familiar yet strange. Earth remains steady, that humanity is altered, bent away from certainty, curved into humility, nudged into wonder. The orbit of thought, unlike the orbit of planets, is fragile, and every interstellar visitor perturbs it. And so, as you close your eyes, let the mathematics reassure you. Earth is safe, the ellipse unbroken, the seasons sure. But let imagination linger beside you. Perhaps the orbit altered on that October night was not. Earth's around the sun, but ours around the unknown. Shifted once again by a traveler from beyond. A shockwave not of destruction, but of revelation. Reminding us that while planets remain steady, our certainty is always waiting to be moved. October 14th, 2025, 3IATLA's returns. With a shockwave documentary for sleep, the calendar marked the day as ordinary, but October 14th would prove to be anything but. For on this night, the interstellar traveler known as 3IATLA returned to view after its hidden passage behind the sun. And in its return, it brought with it not fire or ruin, but a subtle disturbance that rippled across the fabric of human thought. Astronomers had long since declared it harmless. Its path was plotted with precision, a hyperbolic trajectory ensuring it would not linger, would not collide, would not alter Earth's orbit. At closest approach, it would remain 270 million kilometers distant, nearly twice the minimum distance between Earth and Mars, 50 times farther than the Moon. Its gravitational tug upon Earth was negligible, weaker than tides, weaker than the pressure of sunlight against our air. In mechanics, the Earth was safe. Its ellipse around the sun remained steady, its seasons assured. Yet Atlas was never only about mechanics. It was about meaning. When it re-emerged from the glare of the sun that night, telescopes around the globe caught something unexpected, abrupt surges of brightness, flares that rose and fell like pulses, too sharp, too patterned, to be dismissed easily. Some describe them as natural outbursts, the venting of volatile ices fractured by solar heat. But others felt the rhythm in them, the impression of timing, the whisper of intention. And so the word shockwave spread not for destruction, but for implication. The shockwave was psychological, cultural, conceptual, a reminder that certainty is never as steady as planets are. To place Atlas in context is to see why its flares struck so deeply. Oumuamua was the first interstellar visitor we knew, discovered in 2017. An elongated shard tumbling strangely, its unexplained acceleration inspiring speculation of alien sails. Borisov came next in 2019, a comet whose predictable tale soothed us, reassuring us that many such wanderers might be ordinary. And then came TLAS, discovered on July 1st, 2025, at the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile. A cometary body with the strangeness of both predecessors. At perihelion, it raced at 130 miles per second, carrying a hyperbolic excess velocity of 61 kilometers per second, faster than before. On August 6th, the James Webb Space Telescope revealed its chemistry, and the mystery deepened. A coma dominated by carbon dioxide in an unprecedented ratio of 81:1 over water vapor. Scientists offered explanations: formation in a CO-rich region of its natal disk, alteration by cosmic rays over billions of years, dust mantles sealing away water. Plausible, yes, but none complete. And then came the October flares. Could chemistry itself be code? Could light curves be language? Could silence be signal? Radio telescopes strained to detect artificial transmissions and found only quiet, but perhaps quiet itself was the message. Perhaps the shockwave was not in light, but in the realization that the universe may speak in ways we have not learned to read. History shows that comets have always been more than ice and dust. In Babylon, they were cataloged as omens of conquest. In China, they foretold the fates of emperors. In Europe, they appeared in manuscripts as fiery swords, harbingers of famine and plague. Even in 1910, Halley's Comet stirred panic that its tail would poison Earth. Beneath these myths lies memory, for comets and asteroids have indeed changed worlds. They scarred the moon, reshaped Mars, and 66 million years ago ended the reign of dinosaurs, transforming climate and life. To see Atlas flare unnaturally is to feel that memory awaken, to recall that wanderers can alter everything. But the alteration here is subtler. Earth's orbit is unchanged, but humanity's orbit of certainty has been perturbed. For orbits are not only celestial, they are also conceptual, paths of thought tracing mysteries larger than ourselves. Oumuamua bent us toward the artificial. Borisov bent us back toward the natural. Atlas bends us again into the uncertain middle, cometary yet anomalous, silent yet loud. Its flares on October 14th bent us further still, toward humility, toward wonder, toward unease. Perhaps Atlas is natural, and if so, it teaches us that planetary formation is more diverse than imagined, that interstellar objects carry records of ancient stellar neighborhoods. Or perhaps it is not natural, and if so, it teaches us that intelligence may pass through our skies, not with obvious ships, but with subtle disguises, messages hidden in chemistry and light. Either way, Earth remains steady, but humanity has shifted. The shockwave of Atlas was not in oceans or atmospheres, but in minds and meanings. It was not a jolt to mechanics, but to philosophy. It was a reminder that the cosmos is alive with wanderers, some ordinary, some strange, some perhaps intentional, and that while planets endure, our certainty does not. And so, as you close your eyes, let the numbers comfort you. Earth's orbit is safe, the ellipse unbroken, the year assured. But let imagination accompany you into sleep. Perhaps the orbit altered on October 14th was not Earth's around the sun, but ours around the unknown. Bent once again by a visitor from the stars. A shockwave not of destruction, but of revelation, reminding us that while planets remain steady, our certainty is always waiting to be moved. October 14th, 2025, 3i Atlas. Returns with a shockwave, documentary for sleep. The night that will be remembered as the return of 3i Atlas began in silence. No tremors in the earth, no storms in the seas, no fire across the skies announced what was coming. To those walking under the autumn stars, October 14th passed with the same quiet dignity as countless nights before. And yet, to the astronomers tracking it, to the thinkers pondering it, and to the collective imagination of humanity, this was a night when something shifted. Not in the orbit of Earth itself, but in the orbit of certainty. For the object that had already been catalogued, measured, analyzed, and declared safe, the third interstellar visitor ever observed, chose this night to whisper in a voice we did not expect. It whispered not through sound, but through light, not through transmission, but through pattern, not through destruction, but through disturbance. The interstellar traveler known as 3i Atlas had been first glimpsed on July 1st, 2025, by the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile. At first, it was just a faint speck, one of thousands of nightly detections, easily lost in the noise of the sky. But its trajectory was unusual. Within days, orbital solutions revealed it was not bound to the sun. Its path was hyperbolic, Open-ended, proof that it came from the stars and would return to them. In that instant, it joined the exclusive company of only two before it, One-Eye Oumuamua in 2017 and two, I Borisov in 2019. Each of those visitors had left its mark. Oumuamua, elongated and tumbling, carried unexplained acceleration and inspired speculation about alien sails. Borisov, behaving like a textbook comet, reassured us that many interstellar wanderers were natural. But Atlas was different, and as the months unfolded, its differences became undeniable. At perihelion, the point of its closest approach to the sun, it raced at 130 miles per second. Even after accounting for solar gravity, it carried a hyperbolic excess velocity of 61 kilometers per second, nearly double Oumuamua's. Its speed suggested either violent ejection from its home system or long eons of acceleration through encounters across the galaxy. But its chemistry was stranger still. On August 6th, the James Webb Space Telescope turned its instruments upon Atlas and revealed a coma dominated by carbon dioxide, with a ratio of 81:1 over water vapor. This was unprecedented. Comets in our own solar system release water first, with carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide playing secondary roles. But Atlas had inverted the script entirely. Explanations arose. Perhaps it formed near a CO snow line in its natal protoplanetary disk. Perhaps billions of years of cosmic rays had altered its chemistry, locking away water beneath crusts. Perhaps dust mantles created insulating layers. Plausible ideas, but none fully satisfying. And so, even before October, Atlas had unsettled us. It was cometary, but not quite, familiar but alien, ordinary yet extraordinary. Then came the night of October 14th, when it emerged from the sun's glare. Telescopes across the world, ground-based and orbital alike, reported sudden flares. Pulses of brightness that rose and faded rapidly. They were too sharp to match the slow exhalations of ice sublimation. They repeated as though with rhythm. Natural explanations were again offered. Volatile gases venting in sudden jets. Surface fractures opening under thermal stress. But to many observers, the impression was unmistakable. These were not random. These were pulses. These were signals. The word that spread was shockwave. Not because Earth had been struck, its orbit remained steady, its oceans calm, but because the implications rippled through our species. The shockwave was not physical. It was conceptual. Did a TLS alter Earth's orbit? The answer is still no, in the literal sense. At closest approach, it remained 270 million kilometers away, nearly twice the minimum Earth-Mars distance. Its gravitational tug upon Earth was negligible, weaker than tides, weaker than the sunlight pressing against the upper atmosphere. The ellipse of Earth's path around the sun endured, as it has for billions of years. Yet, in another sense, perhaps yes. For orbits are not only celestial, they are also conceptual. Our thoughts, too, move in patterns, circling around certainties, tracing ellipses around mysteries. And on this night, Atlas perturbed that orbit. It bent the path of imagination. It shifted the ellipse of certainty. It forced us to ask again the questions we thought we had put to rest. To see why the shockwave resonated so deeply, one must return to our long history with comets. For thousands of years, these wanderers have been seen as omens. In Babylon, they were catalogued as signs of conquest. In China, they were tied to the rise and fall of dynasties, their appearance a mirror for the fate of emperors. In medieval Europe, they were painted as swords of fire across illuminated manuscripts, harbingers of famine, plague, and war. Even in the modern age, Halley's Comet in 1910 stirred fear that its gases would poison Earth's air. Beneath the myths lay a truth. Comets have changed worlds. They have scarred the moon, reshaped Mars, And 66 million years ago, one struck Earth and ended the reign of dinosaurs, transforming the climate and opening the path for us. To watch Atlas flare unnaturally is to feel that memory awaken, to sense again that space is not empty, that it carries with it messages and messengers. But perhaps the message is subtler. Perhaps the true shockwave of October 14th was not in physics, but in philosophy. Perhaps a TLA teaches us that intelligence need not arrive in the ways we expect. Radio telescopes strained to detect transmissions and found nothing, but what if silence itself is the message? What if the universe speaks not in voices, but in patterns, not in words, but in anomalies? What if communication comes not in signals we expect, but in chemistry and light and silence? Oumuamua bent us toward speculation of alien probes. Borisov bent us back toward the comfort of natural comets. Atlas bends us again into the uneasy middle ground. Its chemistry whispers strangeness. Its speed whispers deliberation. Its flares whisper pattern. Earth's orbit remains steady, but humanity's orbit of thought is bent. The shockwave rolled not through oceans, but through certainty, not through atmospheres, but through imagination. Perhaps Atlas is entirely natural, and if so, it so widens our understanding, teaching us that planetary formation in distant stars produces chemistries unlike our own, that interstellar wanderers carry within them the diversity of the galaxy. Or perhaps it is not natural, and if so, it forces us to admit that intelligence may already be moving through our skies, not with ships and signals, but with subtler disguises, wanderers that appear as comets but carry purposes we have yet to decode. Either way, Earth is safe, but humanity is changed. The orbit that was altered was not planetary but philosophical. The ellipse perturbed was not Earth's but ours. As you close your eyes, let the certainty of physics comfort you. Earth is steady, its path unbroken, the seasons assured. But let the flares of imagination remain beside you. Perhaps the true orbit altered on October 14th was not Earth's around the sun, but humanity's around the unknown. Bent again by a silent visitor from the stars. A shockwave not of destruction, but of revelation. A reminder that while planets endure, our certainty is always waiting to be moved. October 14th, 2025. 3I a TLA. S returns with a shockwave. Documentary for sleep. The night came quietly, as most turning points do, cloaked in the stillness of an ordinary sky. Stars glittered, the moon traced its familiar arc, and the earth turned untroubled in its ancient path. Yet October 14th will not be remembered as ordinary. It will be remembered as the night when 3IATLAS, the third interstellar visitor ever confirmed, returned from behind the sun and brought with it a disturbance that traveled not through oceans or air, but through the imagination of all who looked up. The object had been declared harmless months before. Its orbit was mapped, its trajectory hyperbolic, its closest pass still 270 million kilometers away, 50 times farther than the moon. The numbers were unyielding. Earth's orbit was steady, its ellipse secure, its seasons assured. Yet on this night, telescopes captured something that unsettled even the most disciplined minds. Sudden pulses of light, flares that rose and faded sharply, repeating as though with rhythm, as though Atlas itself were breathing. Some called them outbursts, the venting of volatile gases fractured by solar heat. But to others, they resembled signals, deliberate, patterned, timed with uncanny precision. And so the word spread like a vibration through headlines and whispers alike. Shockwave. Nothing touched Earth. No tremor ran through its crust. No tide surged unexpectedly. The shockwave was not physical, it was conceptual, a ripple that perturbed the fragile orbit of human certainty. For Atlas was never only about mechanics. It was about mystery. From its discovery on July 1st, 2025, at the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile, it had been extraordinary. Like its predecessors, Oumuamua in 2017 and Borisov in 2019, it was unbound to the sun, destined to pass once and vanish. Yet it was unlike either. Oumuamua was enigmatic, elongated, and inexplicably accelerated. Borisov was familiar, behaving like a comet we could understand. Atlas bridged both, cometary in appearance, yet carrying anomalies. Its speed was staggering, 130 miles per second at perihelion, 61 kilometers per second beyond the sun's reach, faster than any interstellar visitor before. Its chemistry was stranger still. On August 6th, the James Webb Space Telescope revealed a coma dominated by carbon dioxide at a ratio of 81:1 over water vapor, a composition never before seen. Theories poured forth formation in a CO-rich region, cosmic ray alteration, dust mantles sealing away water. Plausible but incomplete. And then came the October flares, and with them the sense that perhaps none of our theories sufficed. Could chemistry itself be code? Could brightness curves be language? Could silence itself be communication? Radio telescopes strained to hear transmissions and recorded only quiet, but perhaps quiet was the very point. Perhaps intelligence travels not in signals we expect, but in anomalies we doubt. Comets have always carried more meaning than their ice and dust. In Babylon, they were portents of conquest. In China, they foretold the fates of emperors. In Europe, they were painted as flaming swords, warnings of famine and plague. Even in 1910, Halley's Comet stirred fear that its tail would poison Earth. Beneath the myths lies memory. For comets and asteroids have indeed changed worlds. They have scarred the moon, reshaped Mars, and 66 million years ago ended the reign of dinosaurs. Altering climate, resetting evolution, opening the path to us. To see Atlas flare unnaturally is to feel that memory awaken. Yet the alteration here is subtler. Earth's orbit is unchanged, but humanity's orbit of thought is perturbed. For orbits are not only celestial, they are conceptual patterns of imagination circling mystery. Oumuamua bent us toward speculation of the artificial. Borisov bent us back toward the comfort of the natural. Atlas bends us again into uncertainty, both comet and anomaly, both silence and signal. On October 14th, it bent us further still, toward humility, toward wonder, toward unease. Perhaps Atlas is natural, teaching us that planetary formation is more diverse than imagined, that the galaxy teems with chemistries we have never known. Or perhaps it is not natural, and if so, it forces us to accept that intelligence may pass quietly through our skies, disguised as debris, delivering messages in silence. Either way, Earth is steady, but humanity is changed. The true shockwave rolled not through space, but through certainty, not through mechanics, but through philosophy. It was a reminder that the cosmos is alive with wanderers, some ordinary, some strange, some perhaps purposeful. And as you close your eyes, let the mathematics reassure you. Earth is safe, its ellipse steady, its year unbroken. But let imagination drift with you too. Perhaps the real orbit altered on. October 14th was not Earth's around the sun, but ours around the unknown. Bent again by the pulse of a traveler from the stars. A shockwave not of destruction, but of revelation. A reminder that while planets endure, our certainty is always waiting to be moved. October 14th, 2025, 3i Atlas. Returns with a Shockwave, documentary for sleep. The night of October 14th carried with it the paradox of the ordinary and the extraordinary. A paradox that has defined every human encounter with the stars. On the surface, nothing seemed unusual. The earth spun in its timeless rhythm, clouds drifted, winds whispered across landscapes, and the heavens glittered with familiar constellations. Yet behind that familiar canopy, something moved, something rare, something that disturbed not the balance of the planet itself, but the balance of certainty. 31ATLAS, the third confirmed interstellar visitor to our solar system, re-emerged from its hidden passage behind the sun, and in doing so delivered what many have come to call a shockwave. The object had been catalogued with precision. From its discovery on July 1st, 2025, at the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile, astronomers had tracked its hyperbolic trajectory, confirming with confidence that it posed no danger. Its closest approach would remain at a comfortable 270 million kilometers, nearly twice the minimum distance between Earth and Mars, 50 times farther than our moon. Its gravitational influence on Earth was negligible, so faint that tides and the solar wind exert greater force. Mathematics confirmed what physics made certain. Earth's orbit was steady, its ellipse secure, its seasons assured. And yet, as Atlas returned to view on October 14th, it betrayed expectations. Telescopes recorded abrupt flares of brightness, pulses that rose and fell with startling sharpness. They did not resemble the gradual, chaotic exhalations of ordinary comets. They repeated, patterned, unsettling. Scientists, cautious in their language, described them as outbursts, natural jets of volatile ices fractured by solar heat. But the public imagination seized upon another possibility, that these flares were not random, but deliberate, that they were not merely chemistry, but communication. Thus the word shockwave spread, not in reference to seismic trembling or atmospheric force, but to the ripple of implication that disturbed the orbit of human certainty. To see why this struck so deeply, one must place Atlas in the context of its predecessors. Oumuamua, discovered in 2017, was the first interstellar object ever observed, a tandem shower with unexplained acceleration. Some argue it was natural, suggested it might be artificial, perhaps not 100%. Borisov followed in 2019, behaving like a conventional comet, venting dust and water vapor predictably. It reassured us, restoring confidence that interstellar wanderers were mostly ordinary.
T-10.
But
9,
Atlas unsettled
8,
that reassurance.
7,
Its speed
6,
was staggering.
5,
At perihelion,
4, 3,
it raced at 130 miles
1.
per second, carrying
Ignition
hyperbolic
and
acceleration
liftoff of Ares
of
1X,
60
testing
km/s.
concepts for
Faster
the
than
future of new
faster
rocket
than
design.
Borisov, faster than anything of its kind we had ever seen. Its chemistry was stranger still. On August 6th, the James Webb Space Telescope detected a comet dominated by carbon dioxide, with an unprecedented ratio of 81:1 over water vapor. No comet in our solar system displayed such balance. Explanations multiplied. Perhaps it had formed near a CO snowline in its natal system. Perhaps billions of years of cosmic ray exposure had altered its composition. Perhaps dust mantles had trapped water beneath insulating crusts. Plausible but incomplete. And then came the October flares, sudden and sharp, and with them, the sense that perhaps none of our explanations were sufficient. Could chemistry itself be code? Could brightness itself be a form of language? Could silence, faithfully recorded by radio telescopes that strained for transmissions and found only quiet, be the message itself? Perhaps Atlas is natural, and if so, it expands our knowledge, teaching us that planetary formation across the galaxy is more diverse than we imagined, that interstellar wanderers carry within them alien chemistries, alien histories. Or perhaps it is not natural, and if so, it forces us to confront the unsettling possibility that intelligence moves silently through our skies, disguised not as ships or signals, but as comets, their messages hidden in anomalies. Humanity has long projected meaning onto comets. In Babylon, they were portents of conquest, written into clay tablets as warnings. In China, they foretold the fates of dynasties, their appearances linked to emperors. In Europe, they appeared as fiery swords and illuminated manuscripts, omens of plague and famine. Even in the modern age, Halley's Comet in 1910 stirred panic that its tail might poison Earth, and beneath myth lies memory, for comets and asteroids have indeed changed worlds. They scarred the moon, they reshaped Mars. 66 million years ago, one ended the age of dinosaurs, rewriting the story of life and opening the path to us. To watch Atlas flare unnaturally is to feel that memory stir, to remember that wanderers can change everything. Yet the alteration here was subtler. Earth's orbit remains steady, but humanity's orbit of thought is perturbed. For orbits are not only celestial, they're conceptual. Oumuamua bent us toward speculation of the artificial. Borisov bent us back toward natural comfort. Atlas bends us again into unease, cometary yet anomalous, familiar yet alien. On October 14th, it bent us further still, toward humility, toward wonder, toward fear. Perhaps the real orbit altered on this night was not Earth's around the sun, but ours around certainty. The true shockwave rolled not through oceans or atmospheres, but through imagination, through philosophy, through the fragile architecture of what we believe. Earth remains steady, but humanity is shifted. As you drift into rest, let the certainty of physics reassure you. The ellipse endures, the seasons remain. But let imagination accompany you too, for perhaps the pulse of Atlas was not a flare of ice, but a flare of meaning, a reminder that while planets endure, our certainty is always waiting to be moved. October 14th, 2025, 3i Atlas. Returns with a Shockwave, documentary for sleep. The night of October 14th continues to grow in our collective memory. Not because Earth shifted in its orbit or because calamity struck, but because a ripple of meaning passed across the human mind. The interstellar traveler 3IA TLAs returned from its hidden journey behind the sun, and in doing so, it reminded us of something we both know and forget, that certainty is fragile, that what we believe to be steady can be perturbed by anomalies too subtle to dismiss. Astronomers had spoken with clarity. Atlas posed no danger. Its orbit was mapped, its trajectory open-ended. Its closest approach at 270 million kilometers, 50 times farther than the moon. Its gravitational pull was negligible, its presence harmless. The Earth continued its unbroken ellipse, the seasons turned as they always had, the physics stood firm. And yet, the October flares unsettled that certainty. Telescopes recorded sudden pulses of light, surges too sharp, too patterned, to fit comfortably into the slow randomness of cometary venting. Scientists used careful terms, calling them outbursts, natural but dramatic. But imagination seized on another possibility, that these were signals, intentional, deliberate, perhaps the whispers of something more. Thus the word shockwave spread. Not a shockwave of force, but of meaning, not one that rattled stone, but one that rattled thought. Atlas had already been a subject of fascination long before. Its speed was unlike any visitor before it, 130 miles per second at perihelion, 61 kilometers per second beyond the sun's reach, far outpacing Oumuamua and Borisov. Its chemistry was stranger still. On August 6th, the James Webb Space Telescope revealed a coma dominated by carbon dioxide in an 81-to-1 ratio over water vapor, a signature no comet in our solar system shares. Explanations were offered: formation in a CO-rich region, cosmic ray processing over eons, insulating dust mantles, but none fully convinced. Then came the October pulses, as though timed to demand attention, to refuse dismissal. Could chemistry itself be a kind of code? Could brightness variations be language? Could silence, faithfully recorded by radio telescopes that detected no artificial signals, be the chosen form of communication? If Atlas is natural, then it still expands our understanding. teaching us that planetary systems beyond our own can produce wanderers with chemistries and speeds we had never imagined, fragments that carry with them the deep history of other stars. But if Atlas is not natural, if it is more than ice and dust, then it forces us to confront the possibility that intelligence might pass silently through our skies, disguised not as ships but as comets, leaving behind messages we have not yet learned to read. Humanity has long given comets meanings beyond their science. To the Babylonians, they were omens of conquest. To the Chinese, they foretold the rise and fall of dynasties. To medieval Europeans, they were painted as fiery swords, harbingers of famine and plague. Even in the 20th century, Halley's Comet in 1910 stirred fear that its gases would poison Earth, and beneath myth lies truth, for comets and asteroids have altered worlds. They scarred the moon, reshaped Mars, and 66 million years ago ended the reign of dinosaurs, rewriting the story of life. To witness Atlas flare unnaturally is to feel that ancient awareness stir, to sense again that wanderers can change everything. Yet the change here is not in the orbit of Earth, but in the orbit of thought. Oumuamua bent us toward speculation of alien technology. Borisov bent us back toward natural reassurance. Atlas bends us once again into uncertainty, cometary yet anomalous, familiar yet strange. The shockwave it sent across humanity was not of destruction, but of revelation, a reminder that our certainty is fragile, that imagination too orbits, and that orbits can be perturbed. Earth continues in safety, its ellipse steady, its year assured. But humanity, perturbed by the pulses of a stranger from the stars, turns now on a new curve, circling questions larger than itself. And so, as you drift toward rest, let physics reassure you. Earth remains safe, the ellipse unbroken. But let speculation linger as well. Perhaps the orbit altered on October 14th was not. Earth's around the sun, that ours around the unknown. Bent once more by a traveler whose shockwave was not a blow to stone, but a blow to certainty. Reminding us that while planets endure, our beliefs are always waiting to be moved. October 14th, 2025. 3i Atlas returns with a shockwave, documentary for sleep. The evening began as if scripted by familiarity. The air cooled into autumn. The constellations wheeled across the dome of the night sky, and the moon traced its usual path. Yet within that ordinary frame, something extraordinary stirred. On this night, October 14th, the interstellar wanderer designated 3i Atlas returned from behind the glare of the sun. Its presence had been calculated, its trajectory mapped, its harmlessness affirmed. Earth remained steady in its orbit, untouched by this traveler's path. And yet, in ways more profound than mechanical influence, Atlas disturbed us. For what it gave was not collision, but a shockwave of meaning. A tremor not through stone or water, but through the fragile architecture of human certainty. The facts were clear. Atlas was discovered on July 1st, 2025, by the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile. From the start, it was extraordinary. Its orbit was hyperbolic, proof that it was unbound to our sun, a visitor from another star system. Its speed was staggering, 130 miles per second at perihelion, 61 kilometers per second beyond solar gravity, faster than any interstellar object yet seen. Its chemistry deepened the puzzle. On August 6th, the James Webb Space Telescope detected a coma with an unprecedented ratio of carbon dioxide to water vapor, 81:1. This was not like comets of our solar system. Theories tried to keep pace formation in a CO-rich region, alteration by cosmic rays, insulating dust mantles that buried water, but none felt conclusive. Then, on October 14th, Atlas emerged again, and the strangeness grew. Telescopes across the world recorded abrupt pulses of light, flares too sharp, too patterned, to resemble random venting. They rose, faded, then returned like signals. Scientists described them as outbursts, dramatic but natural. Yet in the imagination of many, they became something else timed, deliberate, unsettling. Thus the word shockwave spread. No earthquake shook the ground. No storm swept the seas. The shockwave was of implication, not impact. Could Atlas be speaking? Could brightness be a code? Could silence itself be the message? For radio telescopes, straining to detect transmissions, heard nothing but quiet. And yet perhaps quiet itself was the signal. This possibility unsettled, because it fit uneasily into our growing history with interstellar visitors. Oumuamua, discovered in 2017, was the first elongated and tumbling, accelerating inexplicably. Some said it was rock, some said ice, some speculated it was a probe or sail. Borisov followed in 2019, behaving predictably, a comet of familiar type, a reassurance that wanderers were often natural. But Atlas was neither comfort nor catastrophe. It was something in between cometary yet anomalous, ordinary yet strange. Its speed whispered of violent ejection or perhaps deliberate trajectory. Its chemistry whispered of formation conditions we could barely imagine. Its October flares whispered pattern, rhythm, maybe purpose. Humanity has always given comets weight beyond their physics. To the Babylonians, they were omens of conquest, etched in clay. In China, they were tied to the fate of emperors, signs of dynastic change. In Europe, they were painted as flaming swords, harbingers of famine and plague. Even in the modern world, Halley's Comet in 1910 inspired fear that its gases would poison Earth. Beneath these myths lies truth, for comets have indeed altered worlds. They scarred the moon, they scarred Mars, and 66 million years ago, one ended the age of dinosaurs, rewriting Earth's story. To see Atlas flare unnaturally is to feel that ancient awareness stir once more, that wanderers can bring change, even if that change is not physical but conceptual. And so we must ask, did a TLAS alter Earth's orbit? In mechanics, no. Its distance was vast, its pull negligible, its presence fleeting. Earth's ellipse remained steady, but in meaning, perhaps yes. For orbits are not only celestial, they are conceptual. Our beliefs, our certainties, our models of reality, they too orbit around assumptions. Oumuamua bent those orbits toward speculation of alien technology. Borisov bent them back toward the reassurance of the natural. Atlas bends them again, unsettling both extremes, forcing us into humility. The true shockwave is not through oceans or atmospheres, but through thought, bending our orbit of certainty into curves we had not foreseen. Perhaps Atlas is natural, and if so, it teaches us that the galaxy is stranger and more diverse than we thought, that planetary systems produce chemistries and bodies unlike any we've seen. Or perhaps it is not, and if so, it suggests that intelligence already passes through our skies, not loudly, not with transmissions or ships, but quietly, disguised as comets, subtle, patient, waiting. Either way, Earth continues in safety, its orbit unbroken, its year assured. But humanity, perturbed by the pulses of a visitor, turns now on a new path of imagination. The shockwave of October 14th was a reminder that while celestial mechanics can assure us of physical safety, it cannot shield us from wonder, from unease, from revelation. It reminded us that while planets endure, certainty does not. And so, as you drift toward rest, let the calm voice of physics reassure you. Earth remains steady, its path unshaken. But let speculation travel with you. Perhaps the true orbit altered on that night was not Earth's around the sun, but ours around the unknown, bent once again by the silent flare of a visitor from the stars. A shockwave not of destruction but of meaning, reminding us that certainty too can move. October 14th, 2025. 3IATLAS returns with a shockwave, documentary for sleep. The night seemed to begin with the rhythm of any other, but hidden in that rhythm was a disturbance that no eye could see without the aid of instruments, and no heart could ignore once the news spread. On October 14th, the interstellar wanderer known as 3IATLA is re-emerged from behind the sun, and though it touched nothing on Earth, though it left our orbit unbroken and our seasons secure, it left behind something stranger and deeper, a shockwave of meaning. Astronomers had spoken confidently in the months before. Atlas posed no physical danger. Its trajectory was open, hyperbolic, ensuring that it would not be captured by the sun's pull. Its closest approach was measured at 270 million kilometers, 50 times farther than the moon. Its gravity was trivial. Earth's orbit, steady as ever, did not change. The numbers were clear, and yet numbers were not enough dot when Atlas came back into view. Telescopes captured sudden flares of light, sharp and quick pulses that repeated like a rhythm. They were too clean, too patterned, too abrupt to feel like random jets of sublimating ice. Scientists labeled them outbursts, natural but dramatic. Yet for others, they felt deliberate, like signals. The word that carried outward was shockwave, not because anything shook the ground or rattled the oceans, but because a ripple of implication had disturbed human certainty. What if these pulses were not accidents? What if Atlas itself was more than ice and dust? Atlas had already been a puzzle before the flares. Its speed was astonishing, 130 miles per second at perihelion, 61 kilometers per second beyond the sun's influence, faster than Oumuamua, faster than Borisov. Its chemistry was stranger still. On August 6th, the James Webb Space Telescope revealed a coma with an unprecedented ratio of carbon dioxide, water vapor, 81:1. Explanations came. It might have formed in a CO-rich environment, or cosmic rays could have altered it over eons, or dust mantles could have sealed its water. Plausible, yes, but none satisfying. And then came the October pulses, as though to remind us that even our best models remain incomplete. History has always given comets weight beyond their science. In Babylon, they were omens of conquest. In China, they foretold the fates of rulers. In Europe, they were painted as flaming swords, signs of plague and famine. Even Halley's Comet in 1910, in the age of telescopes, stirred fear that its gases would poison the Earth. Beneath myth lies memory, for comets and asteroids have indeed altered worlds. They reshaped the moon, they scarred Mars, and 66 million years ago, one ended the age of dinosaurs, transforming Earth's climate and life itself. To see Atlas flare unnaturally was to feel that memory awaken, to recall that wanderers can bring change, even when that change is not physical but conceptual. So did Atlas alter Earth's orbit? In the language of mechanics, no. The Earth's ellipse around the sun remains unbroken, steady as always. But in the language of thought, perhaps yes. For orbits are not only celestial, they are conceptual. Our beliefs, our certainties, our models, they circle what we think we know, and they too can be perturbed. Oumuamua bent us toward speculation of the artificial. Borisov bent us back toward natural reassurance. Atlas bends us again into uncertainty, forcing us to admit how little we know. Perhaps Atlas is natural. A fragment carrying alien chemistry from a distant stellar nursery, a lesson in the diversity of the galaxy. Or perhaps it is not, and if so, then its silence may be intentional, its flares deliberate, its disguise purposeful. Perhaps intelligence travels not as ships that announce themselves, but as comets that slip quietly between stars. Either way, Earth remains safe, but humanity is changed. The true shockwave rolled not through the atmosphere, but through imagination. It was not the Earth's orbit that shifted, but our orbit around certainty, bent again into curves of wonder, fear, and humility. And so, as you settle into rest, let the clarity of physics soothe you. Earth is safe. The ellipse is unbroken. The seasons endure. But let speculation linger as well, for perhaps the orbit altered on October 14th was not Earth's around the sun, but ours around the unknown, moved once more by the silent flare of a visitor from the stars. A shockwave not of force, but of meaning, reminding us that while planets endure, our certainties do not. October 14th, 2025, 3IATLAS returns with a shockwave, documentary for sleep. The evening that history will remember began without spectacle. No thunder split the sky, no tremor rolled through the earth. To anyone walking beneath the autumn constellations, October 14th was as ordinary as 1,000 nights before. But far beyond ordinary perception, just beyond the sun's glare, something stirred. The return of 3IATLA as the third interstellar visitor humanity has ever seen. And though it touched nothing of Earth, though our orbit remained unbroken, though the ellipse carried on steady around the sun, Atlas left behind a shockwave, a ripple not of matter but of meaning, not of force but of certainty disturbed. For months, astronomers had affirmed the same truth. Atlas posed no danger. Its path was hyperbolic, a cosmic arc that would not be captured by the sun's pull. At closest approach, it would remain a distant 270 million kilometers away, 50 times farther than the moon, nearly twice the minimum Earth-Mars distance. Its gravitational influence on our world was negligible, weaker than tides, weaker than the subtle pressure of sunlight on the upper atmosphere. Earth's orbit was secure, untouched. Yet on this night, when Atlas reappeared, telescopes captured what numbers had not predicted. The traveler flared. Its brightness surged in abrupt pulses, sharp as a heartbeat, fading, returning, repeating. Scientists described them as outbursts, natural but dramatic, vents of volatile ice fractured by solar heat. But to others, they seemed patterned, deliberate, a pulse from the dark. And the word that spread across headlines and whispers alike was shockwave dot. It was not a shockwave of destruction. No impact shook our crust. No wave lashed our shores. The shockwave was conceptual, psychological, cultural. It rattled not the ground but certainty. And in that rattling, it asked a question we had thought answered. What truly is a TLAs? To understand why the October flares cut so deep, one must see Atlas not in isolation but in lineage. In 2017, Oumuamua arrived, elongated, tumbling strangely, accelerating without explanation. Some argued it was rock, others ice, others still a sail or a probe. In 2019 came Borisov, a comfortingly ordinary comet, venting water vapor and dust in ways we understood. And then came Atlas in 2025, cometary in appearance yet carrying anomalies that resisted resolution. At perihelion, it raced at 130 miles per second, carrying a hyperbolic excess velocity of 61 kilometers per second, faster than any interstellar object we had seen. On August 6th, the James Webb Space Telescope revealed its chemical strangeness, a coma dominated by carbon dioxide, in a ratio of 81:1 over water vapor, unlike any comet in our solar system. Scientists offered theories: formation in CO-rich regions, cosmic ray alteration, dust mantles trapping water beneath crusts. Plausible but incomplete. And then came October's pulses, like signals insisting on being noticed. Could chemistry itself be code? Could brightness curves be a language? Could silence be the message? Radio telescopes strained for transmissions and heard nothing, but perhaps nothing was the point. Perhaps Atlas was not only comet but messenger, its disguise deliberate, its timing intentional, its silence eloquent. Perhaps intelligence travels not in ships that announce themselves, but in wanderers that mimic nature so well we doubt our own suspicion. This possibility unsettled us because it resonated with something older than astronomy, something written into the human story. For comets have never been only comets in our imagination. In Babylon, they were catalogued as omens of conquest. In China, they foretold the rise and fall of dynasties. In Europe, they were painted as swords of flame, heralds of plague and famine. Even in 1910, Halley's Comet inspired fear that its tail's gases would poison the world. Beneath the superstition lies truth, for wanderers have altered worlds. They scarred the moon, reshaped Mars, and 66 million years ago, one ended the age of dinosaurs, rewriting Earth's story and opening the path to us. To watch Atlas flare was to feel that memory stir, to recognize again that the universe's wanderers can bring change. Even if that change is not physical but conceptual doubt, so did Atlas alter Earth's orbit? In mechanics, no. Earth's ellipse remains steady, the seasons continue. But in another sense, perhaps yes. For orbits are not only celestial, they're conceptual. Our thoughts, our beliefs, our certainties, they circle mysteries, they orbit assumptions. And sometimes a traveler perturbs them. Oumuamua bent us toward speculation of alien technology. Borisov bent us back toward reassurance of the natural. ATLAS bends us once again, forcing humility, demanding wonder. The shockwave was not in oceans or air, but in philosophy. Not in mechanics, but in imagination. Perhaps Atlas is natural, and if so, it expands our understanding, showing us that planetary systems across the galaxy produce chemistries and wanderers stranger than we had dared assume. Or perhaps it is not natural, and if so, it teaches us that intelligence may be moving among the stars in silence, subtle and patient, passing close enough to be seen, but not close enough to touch. Either way, Earth continues safe, its orbit unbroken, but humanity has shifted. For the orbit perturbed on October 14th was not Earth's around the sun, but ours around certainty. The shockwave rolled not through matter, but through meaning. It reminded us that the universe is stranger than we allow ourselves to believe, that wanderers aren't messengers that silence itself can speak. It reminded us that while planets endure, our certainties do not. And so, as you drift towards sleep, let the firm voice of physics reassure you. Earth is steady, its orbit unbroken, the ellipse secure. But let imagination whisper too. Perhaps the true orbit altered that night was not planetary but human, bent again by the pulse of a traveler from the stars. A shockwave not of destruction but of revelation, reminding us that while worlds endure, our certainty is always waiting to be moved.